My name is Katie Smith, and this is my MSW talk video, or Katie Talk if you will, for my Advanced Field Education course. And what I want to share with you today is my experience in the last year at my internship for my master's program. Also, what I've learned, basically how I've grown as far as the social work field goes, as well as individually as a person. And then also, my feelings on what I need to continue to grow in and learn as I'm starting out in the social work field after I hopefully graduate here shortly. So I started my master's program internship in September 2016 at Abbott House in Mitchell, South Dakota. Abbott House is a long-term residential treatment facility for girls ages 9 to 17, as well as their families. They have specific behavioral, psychological, psychiatric problems, which has really affected their lives, and they've really struggled in just living their daily life. So it's a place where they can go to, have a safe environment where they can receive treatment. And the reason that I chose Abbott House was specifically because, I wanted to focus more on the clinical side of therapy during my master's program. When I did my undergraduate program, I did my internship at HSC in Yankton, and obviously I was doing social work duties, basically intake, a lot of interviewing. I was the liaison communications, between the hospital as well as, clients' parents, other clinicians, that sort of thing. But I never had real individual contact as far as on a therapeutic level with the kids. So, and Abbott House, obviously it deals with adolescents, and that's my passion. So that was another reason, why I want to do my internship there. So during the first semester at Abbott House, I wasn't given the opportunity, unfortunately, to do clinical individual therapy with the girls. So what I did was I did a lot of groups. At Abbott House, they offer different kinds of groups, support groups, educational groups. There was mood management, anger management, emotional regulations, basically groups where I would help the girls in regards to managing their emotions and really realizing that connection between what may trigger them, their thoughts, their feelings, and then their actions. And really giving them the tools to be able to help themselves, when they have something come up that triggers them. So, most of the girls that come to Abbott House have come from extremely traumatic lives. The majority of them have experienced different kinds of abuse, physical, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, as well as severe neglect. Most of them have been surrounded by issues pertaining to substance abuse, some really difficult family situations, and the majority of the environments that they grew up in were very chaotic, many times very dangerous. And so Abbott House was really that place where they could go as more than a treatment facility. It became a home to them, because really this is a long-term facility. They would stay normally between 12 months to several years, depending on the age of the girl and also their situation. So back to my first semester, with the groups, I did really learn a lot in doing that, because I was able to talk to the girls and see them interact. And it really helped with my relationship with them, because I didn't just come in as an intern and go, okay, I'm going to be your therapist now. We had a chance to get to know each other, and that was really helpful. They got used to me. I got to know them, in the groups, as well as just casually when I would see them around Abbott House. But I also, I could see them really growing comfortable with myself as well as with the other girls there, because they would share stories and they were able to talk about it in these groups. And I can see why that is such an important part of the therapeutic process, having these groups and not just the individual therapy, but really working with one another and kind of growing in that, you know, as a group. So also during the first semester, I was able to shadow and observe 2 of the therapists that were at Abbott House. And I really learned a lot. And I still actually shadowed during my second semester as well. But I was able to see the vast difference of how each individual therapist really approaches the therapeutic process and treatment, and how they use, you know, different theories and concepts and methods. And one of the therapists I had observed quite a bit was Jacob, and he was younger. He was very excited. He wanted to help the girls. He was high energy, in your face, let's hit the ground running. He always said that. He could be very abrupt and confrontational as far as, you know, when the girls were not necessarily telling the truth. He was very in their face. And for some of the girls that worked really well because they needed that. And so I was able to see the way he, you know, approached therapy. And then the other therapist that I observed was Tanya, and she was actually on the other side of the spectrum. She had been there, I think, 9 years, so has had a lot of experience, but she was quieter, more thoughtful in the process. There was a lot of talking, exchanging ideas. But one thing I noticed with her was there was times when there was actually quite a bit of silence in between interactions between her and the girls. And sometimes it was uncomfortable, but what I learned is that it was necessary. And Tanya did that. It was purposeful in the therapeutic process, as to where, you know, the girl will bring up something she wants to talk about. Tanya will give her insight, and then she will let the girl sit and process her emotions, her feelings, her thoughts. And I'll tell you what, sometimes the silence was up to 5-10 minutes, but I could see that gradually it was very necessary, because a lot of times when these girls face the emotions and the issues that they've been dealing with their whole lives, they don't know how to process it. And this gave them the time in a safe place with Tanya there, if they needed her, to process through it. And it was an integral part of their therapy. I mean, I could see the change in the girls, so that was amazing to watch. Also, during my first and second semester, I guess during the whole year, Dr. J.C. Chambers, I learned a lot from him. He was the clinical psychologist. He consulted with Abbott House. He would come 2 to 3 times a month. He would work directly with the staff. He did a lot of training. Also, he would work with some of the clients and then actually work directly with the therapists as far as giving feedback, suggestions, additional information, education. So he was amazing. I was very lucky to come during a time that he was working with them, because I really learned a lot from him. But during the second semester, I was able to start working with individuals and having therapy sessions with them, and I was so excited. So when they told me this, I was like gung-ho. I'm like, this is great. You know, I have all this knowledge. You know, I was going to go in with what I learned during my undergrad and also my graduate program, and I was ready to take on the world and help these girls. And then the first week that I got back of the second semester, reality kind of dawned on me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be these girls' therapists. I won't just be sitting there observing like I had before. I won't be just a fly on the wall. I won't just be leading groups. You know, I'm going to be interacting individually with these girls, and I'm going to be their clinician, and I'm going to help them through this process. So I was nervous as far as that goes. I think a lot of that had to do with my inexperience in the field, because, you know, I'm just starting out in the social work field. I've never actually worked in it besides my internships at USD. And so I was lacking in confidence in my own skills and abilities to use what I've learned with the girls. When I first started doing individual counseling sessions, Jacob would sit in with me and he would just quietly observe. And basically they just wanted to make sure that I was on the right track. It was a little awkward from time to time, but it was so helpful, because if I were sitting with a girl and I got stuck or, wasn't sure which direction to go, he was always there. I could just look over and say, Jacob, do you have any suggestions? What's your thoughts? And he would be there to help me. Also, I really appreciated the feedback that I received from him, because I am constantly wanting to learn more and wanting to improve on myself. So as soon as the session would end and the girl would leave, I'd be like, Jacob, what did you think? How did I do? He would give me instant feedback and suggest some different things and give me, encouragement. And that was so helpful, because it was right after the session. It was fresh in my mind. The experience was still right there. So that was amazing. After a few weeks, Jacob actually stopped observing me, but I still continued to record my sessions for JC Chambers. And this is, I think, the most helpful part of my internship, where I learned the most, because he's an amazing clinician. He has a connection with these young people that just comes naturally. But you could tell I was extremely eager to learn from him, because as I would submit my recordings and he would come see us, I'd be like, oh, did you listen to my recording? What do you think? How did I do? He'd be like, Katie, take a breath, calm down. He's like, you're doing fine. Like, no, but I want to know what I'm doing wrong. I want to know what am I doing right. He said, you're doing fine. He's like, you're working with the process. He's like, you're doing a good job. One thing specifically, though, that I did learn about myself in his feedback, as well as in listening to the recordings of myself, which I hated, was that apparently I'm uncomfortable with silence, with long periods of silence. And I found that funny, because he's like, Katie, I listened to your tape, and he's like, you just need to learn when to shut up. He's like, because I was finding that in listening to myself, I would give the girls time to process, a couple minutes, whatever. But then I would constantly want to reassure them that I was listening, that I was there for them, that I understood their feelings. And he said, just let the process work. You have the relationship with the girl. The trust is there. You're getting her there. But sometimes silence is necessary. And like I said before, I found that silence is very purposeful. And I just became very self-aware of when I'm doing that. So that was a really big change for me, because I had no idea that I was doing that. During most of my sessions, I used cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, a lot of person-centered therapy, and then also empowerment, because empowerment is so important, especially with these girls. They had their personal power taken from them at a very early age. They basically, their self-concept, who they were was taken from them and replaced with these awful traumas. And so what I really wanted to maintain was that, they had the power within them, and that they were worth it. They were a good person. They had these wonderful attributes. And I'll tell you what, some of the most amazing moments were when I saw the girls realize that they were actually the change agent within their life. And regardless, of what happened to them, that they do have control, and they have the power to take back the life, the choices that was taken away from them so long ago. And that was so powerful for me to see. And in general, I would have to say another lesson that I learned, or how I improved, was my communication skills. I found that I was able to communicate to the girls, that I was caring, that I was concerned, that I had their best interest at heart, while still maintaining that professional demeanor. I wouldn't break down with them, because some of the stories were just awful, and you just want to go to them and say, I totally understand, I feel so bad for you, this is awful, and just break down with them. But I found a lot of inner strength where I was able to maintain that professionalism, but still convey that I did care and that I had concern and I was there to help them. And in relation to that, I also found that I was able to communicate pretty well with the parents and the caregivers, because I did struggle with that in my undergraduate internship, where, you know, we meet with these people, and most of the time they are part of the reason why the girl is at Abbott House. And most of the time what really happens is they bring their daughter to the facility, they say fix her, and then give her back to us. You know, they really don't take responsibility in what part they played in the situation. But I found what I was able to do, and you know, this was a process for me, was I was able to convey to them possible behaviors, decisions they had made, things they had done or said that could have contributed to what was happening with their child right now. And I was always afraid, you know, that I would offend them, that they would get angry. But by the end of this, I had become, you know, really comfortable in myself and what I was doing. And I was able to, a lot of times, get them to realize the part they played in the situation without them getting upset, you know, without cutting off that communication and that trust. And I could see many times where the light bulb went off in their head that it wasn't just the girl with the issues. This was a family problem. This was something that everybody needs to work on. And those were really great moments that I experienced as well. Overall, I think what I still need to work on is definitely my confidence level. As I said, I don't have much experience in the social work world, so I know I have the tools and the knowledge and the information, and Abbott House has really made me feel prepared to go out in the workforce as well, but I just need to have confidence in myself and know that I can do a good job and I can be there, you know, for my clients and help them. You know, it's obviously a lifelong learning process, so I'm always going to continue to educate myself and improve. I think a lot of self-reflection is necessary. Self-awareness is so important. I've been able to really do that with myself. I'm able to look at myself as if I'm sitting on the outside, so I can see myself as I present to others. And that has really helped me grow in regards to how I do therapy and how I interact with my clients. But all in all, my experience at Abbott House has been one of the most fulfilling of my life. I realized this is what I'm supposed to do. The girls, I learned more from them than I learned from, honestly, any of the other staff. Even JC, they're just so strong, and they're amazing individuals, but have no idea that they hold these wonderful attributes. And in being part of the process of them discovering these amazing qualities and the strength they have, it just touched me. And I think that was the biggest gain of all of this. You know, that I was able to go in, and I wasn't just an intern. I was part of the whole process, the team, in helping these girls heal. And, you know, I know that I affected their life, but I don't think they have any idea of how much they actually touched my life as well. So overall, working at Abbott House and my experience there last year has been amazing. Thank you.